So the first Titan build that I wanted to show was the Clap. This is a build that I put on TikTok several years ago at this point. It was back when I believe Ghost of the Deep came out, and I was absolutely in love with this build. The main build, as you can see in the top right, is with the Striker subclass, and the fragments that it has is Spark of Ions, which is defeating a jolted target, creates an ionic trace. Resistance, while surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage. Spark of Amplitude, rapidly defeating a target while you're amplified, creates an orb of power. And then Feedback, taking melee damage briefly increases your outgoing melee damage. All of these are great and give good stat bumps on two of them. And then the aspects that we were running were Knockout, which was to regen health every time we got a melee kill, and then Touch of Thunder was just because it was better than Juggernaut as far as PvE goes. The old version works just fine and well, but the new updated version with Prismatic is significantly better in my opinion. It uses Facet of Dawn, which is powered melee hits make you radiant, powered melee final blows make nearby allies radiant as well as yourself. It does take away strength on the downside. Courage, your Arc, Solar, and Void abilities deal increased damage to targets afflicted by darkness debuffs. That's plus 10 discipline. Protection, which is the same exact thing that Resistance did on the Arc subclass, but now while Transcendent, the effect is increased, plus 10 strength. Facet of Blessing, final melee blows start health regeneration, while Transcendent final melee blows start health regeneration for you and nearby allies. So that's going to help out with Knockout, since Knockout did receive a nerf last season. And then finally, Facet of Balance, rapidly defeating targets with light damage grants melee energy, rapidly defeating targets with darkness grants grenade energy. For the aspects, I did go Diamond Lance because every time you're going to kill an enemy with your Thunderclap, you're going to create a Diamond Lance, so it makes for a fun cycle there. And then on top of that, I went with either Ginger's Lash or Knockout. Can use Unbreakable if that's something more along the lines of something you would want to run, and just run the shortest cooldown grenade, which is pretty much anything other than Shackle. My favorite grenade to run with Unbreakable is Glacier Grenades, that way you can just throw up a wall in front of you. And for the super, very easily go in Twilight Arsenal. Hopefully Bungie fixes its tracking because it is pretty wild right now, but it's an incredibly powerful super that does a ton of damage. And you guys have been seeing the gameplay loop in the background, and it's really good. And you'll see here the biggest reason that I am using something like Knockout is it counts my uncharged melees. Whenever I am using an uncharged melee and my melee is fully charged, it counts that and creates a Diamond Lance, so that does come in handy quite a lot. And this has always been one of my favorite Titan builds. I know Titans are in a pretty weird place, but I love this build. So that's pretty much the build, and your loop is going to be just punch everything as much as you can. And the way that the Shackle Grenade into the Jolt works is pretty similar to how the Transcendent Grenade works in general. So you're just going to suspend stuff, and then it's all going to be there. It's not going to move. You can Thunderclap pretty easily. You can just Thunderclap. You don't have to use the Shackle Grenade. Like I said, you can use a Glacier Grenade for a wall. That works perfectly fine. And a cool thing about using a Glacier Grenade is when you throw it up and then you Thunderclap that wall, it does shatter all of those crystals. The biggest reason I chose Knockout, not for the melee range or the health regen, it was for defeating enemies with your melee attacks, making you amplified. So basically, whenever you get amplified, your point contact cannon brace is going to do more damage. So Point Contact Cannon Brace reads, defeating targets with your Thunderclap melee restores your melee energy. Targets near you when you use your Thunderclap suffer from lightning strikes and become jolted. Being amplified increases the damage of these lightning strikes. So when you're amplified, your Thunderclaps do more damage. The easiest way to get amplified on Prismatic is to use Knockout. You can use Thunder Crash as your super and then use Facet of Purpose, which allows you to pick up an orb and become amplified, but Twilight Arsenal is just so much better, I wouldn't really want to run that. And there are a ton of weapons that I could recommend here. The biggest one that I'm going to recommend is Corasion, and that is the brand new Heavy Burst Pulse Rifle. Heavy Burst Pulse Rifles are kind of new, kind of niche, but these things are really strong in PvE. They do a lot of damage, and this comes with Pugilist. It also comes with Swashbuckler, if that's something that you're interested in. It also comes with Volt Shot, Frenzy. tons of good perks in that final column, but Pugilist is the big one in that main column, so you can get your grenade energy back faster, and it works out to be even more because with Facet of Balance, rapidly defeating targets with light damage is going to grant you melee energy, so you're going to get your melee back even faster. We're stacking as many buffs as possible to make your melee come back as quickly as possible. And a weapon that I was using in this was Breachlight, which also has Pugilist. It also has access to Desperate Measures, which if you don't know is a very similar perk to that of Swashbuckler and Adrenaline Junkie. But essentially, if you want to run a weapon like that, I've been using Facet of Bravery occasionally. That way, every time I get a melee kill, powered melee kills grant unraveling rounds to your strand weapons. So it does make your Breachlight do more damage there, and that is pretty much the only thing that I would replace this for. You can replace this with something else if you would like, if you're not using a light weapon, but that's my recommendation. So either Balance, or if you're using something like Breachlight, use Facet of Bravery. And if there's something else that you're going to use, I would definitely recommend removing Balance because it's not as important as I feel like the rest of these probably are. And with you being able to spam your thrusters, there is one weapon that could work better than Breachlight if you're not worried about a damage perk, and that's going to be Eminence, the brand new raid weapon from Salvation's Edge. It has the combination of Strategist with Pugilist, which is going to allow you to get your thrusters back and get your melee back faster, so you can, use your melee again, and then you can instantly use your thrusters to go ahead and get some of that melee energy back, so to make the loop a little bit more seamless. The gameplay loop is pretty simple. You're going to either throw your shackle and thunderclap, or you are going to just thunderclap. You're going to restore about half of your melee energy if you kill a handful of enemies, and if you don't know, with point contact cannon brace, once you use your charge, if you turn around and there are enemies behind you, for some reason they also will die, like you basically thunderclapped twice. That is going to make you amplified. You're going to create a diamond lance if one of those enemies gets jolted whenever they die. You can then take that diamond lance and free stuff. You can shatter them by punching them or whatever, and because those enemies are afflicted by a darkness debuff, which would be slow or freeze, you will then be able to get your light base abilities, so your powered melee or your super, now do more damage. Same thing goes for targets you suspend. If you suspend something before you use Thunderclap, it will take more damage due to Facet of Courage. And then you're going to get kills with either your light energy weapon or your darkness energy weapon, and if you're using something again like Breachlight, you're gonna get those unraveling rounds. That's also going to put a debuff on enemies, a darkness debuff, so again your light abilities will do more damage to those enemies. Every time you get that melee hit, that powered melee hit, or that melee kill, you're going to be Radiant, so it's going to make your weapons do even more damage. So your weapons are doing more damage with Radiant, and you're doing more damage because you have Courage on to any enemy afflicted by the Darkness debuff. And if you're using an arc weapon, sure, you aren't getting the Darkness debuff thing necessarily unless they were hit by the Diamond Lance, but now you're going to be getting more of your melee back with Balance, and then with Balance on top of using something with Pugilist, you're going to be getting a ton of melee energy back. And that's pretty much the loop. The loop is make room go boom, have Diamond Lance, make room go boom, throw your grenade, suspend stuff, punch them, shoot them with your weapon, get some more of that melee energy back, and then you're just going to repeat. And then Twilight Arsenal just does so much damage in general. It's fantastic. As far as mods go, on your helmet, I would definitely run a Siphon, probably hands-on since you're going to be getting tons of melee kills. Maybe an ammo finder, depending on what you may need. On your chest piece, I just recommend resistance mods. And on your gauntlets, I'm going to recommend heavy-handed, momentum transfer, and fastball. On your boots, I'm going to recommend Better Already and Invigoration. So you're going to get a melee kill, you're going to get some super energy back with hands-on. With heavy-handed, you're going to create an orb. With that orb, you're going to pick it up, and you're going to get some of your melee energy back. Or you could run double Invigoration, or you could run double Surges. For your class item, I went Outreach, which reduces your melee cooldown when using your class ability, and for the class ability, I went Thruster, so I can spam it as much as possible, and of course Reaper to spawn more orbs, so I can get my melee back. I love this build. I hope you guys too. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that like button because it helps me out a lot. Click the notification bell so you know if I make new videos because I make new videos all the time. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video, whatever it may be.